There we go. There we go.
Okay, and we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive weekly live stream dev update for the week of 9/15/25. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to make it easy to build, control, and benefit from your own AI system. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm David Jones, and I handle the technical side of the operations here as well.
Awesome. So we do these live streams every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So we encourage people to join and jump in and ask questions and share ideas, etc. And we also post the recordings for these at our community at community.braindrive.ai. So if you haven't already joined us there, I would encourage you to. And we always kick it off with the week's development update. So I'll let Dave take it away.
Well, let's go ahead and start by sharing, of course, because we had a lot of progress on that aspect. Let's go there and go ahead and share that. There we go. Let's see some bigger things. Let me go ahead and enlarge this since we have the whole screen. We'll go to settings. We finally have in real form Open Router. The first of, I believe we have a total of 8 provider plugins. So I was able to take the first one, clean it up so it looks like how we want it to look like. Dave hasn't seen these. Dave will give us touches on, nope, let's do this, let's do X. But from my standpoint, it was like functionality, working. It does everything it should do. And
And
it's
this
pretty,
one gives you access to basically any model, which is the reason why we started with that. So now we've got the ability to run any local model with Olama and the ability to run any API-based model through OpenRouter, which is pretty cool.
yes. The only thing that, and unless somebody says, hey, I need it, and I might just be, this might be one of those things we leave for another developer. Let's say you had an instance where you have 2 Open Router keys. You have one that's for work and one that's for play. So that they don't, work doesn't want you crossing the stream and doing play stuff on there because it is
Right.
an expense and stuff like that. So there could be situations, but they would be of the 1% of 1% type
Yeah.
thing. So just like Olama, where I did the first one, it worked for one and it went beautifully. If somebody sees this and they go, you know what, I need two, it should be easy to code. Just take what I did and advance it forward on that.
Yep.
Um,
MIT license, you own it, you customize it, you do whatever you want with it.
Yep. Olama having multiple is a very different story for me since all it takes is 2 computers. And if you wanted to run 2 models, like let's say you had embedding on one side and inferencing on the other, or if you had images on, you could do it multiple ways. Then having it's all it is 2 computers. That would make more sense. So it was like that had to be a requirement for the initial go. Um, I know you don't do it, but you have multiple. I have multiple going it all the time. So they just it made sense for me to implement it. And plus, I'm coding, so hey, that's one where the coder gets prerogative there. And
Cool.
then, as we were talking about, you can easily. Ooh, for some reason, I am not showing all mine. Why not? That's interesting. Let me refresh just in case. I'll have to play around. They were. Ah, okay. I'm not going to get into debugging while we're live. But you can see on this one, this is in fact, this was the, I believe, the test one. I wonder what I'm on. But anyways, I was running through yeah, this is where I was testing to make sure that it was working. For a while there, it wasn't, and I just had garbage and testing the different continuations and such functionality that we got from Matt. And we finally moved him forward. When we seen that, we wanted to make a few more changes, and we started implementing that, moving the controls back up to the header. Um, from there, I can speak to probably a side thing of what we're going to do this week is when this is when I seen it the first time. When you add the open router models, that list gets really long, really fast. I have to say, I think open router adds 100 models right there.
Yeah, yeah. I
So that,
imagine there's probably a way that you can go into the back end of OpenRouter and like select the models that you want. There's got to be, right?
well, I haven't played with open router that much, so I do not know if that's feasible. But what I do know this is feasible because let's say Open Router is not our only issue here, personas. What if you had tons of pages utilizing different personas? You could end up with 20 or 30 personas as well. And then chat history. If you have a very active conversation over a period of 6, 12 months, you may not want to lose all them. So you end up having a lot of conversations here. So what needs to happen in these cases, I believe we need to have a way for the drop downs. They only display X amount, but it allows you to start typing and then there and automatically start fine tuning that list based on what you typed. So a
Yeah,
good example would be models. Let's say I put in Quinn 3. Only the Quinn 3 models will show no matter what provider I've selected.
yeah,
Those kind of things. And that type of functionality will exist in models, personas, and history. And so
yep.
that way, no matter which one you're at, you can fine tune it based on what you want to accomplish, and go forward.
Yeah, and I view that as like a nice to have right now, not a need to have,
Yeah,
right? Yep. Because I bet you can go into the back, and I think also initially, people aren't going to have hundreds of models in there for the Olama stuff.
yeah. For Llama, you won't because that takes up drive space, and I would imagine I'm at the top where I have this many. Most
Right.
people probably just have three or four.
Yeah. So I
Um,
bet for now, I'll look into I'll put that on my list to look into changing the settings in the back end of Olama so that they won't all show up. You can
yeah,
decide what you want.
yeah. But either way, my brain's already started churning on for the upcoming functionality, what to add to this. Otherwise, it is starting to move pretty good. We added some responsiveness to it, so it starts to move with the screen.
Yep.
We haven't quite got totally to mobile yet, but right now, because we're focused on the developers, which are most cases are on desktops. However, we have taken those first steps so that we're not going backwards on it. It's just a matter of adding the additional functionality to hit for mobiles coming.
Yeah, and because when I used to log in, the chat would be off the page, and now it's like centered right on the page, which
Yep,
is nice. Are we done with both sides of the unified renderer now with that white space issue
yeah,
we were having on the right?
yep, yep.
Okay.
That should be completely done, unless, of course, you had set it up in Page Builder to look like you're only using half the page. Then it won't
Right.
fix it for you because
Right.
that's what you have decided. That's what you want to see.
Right.
But like in my case, for the AI chat, it is taking up my full screen so
Yep.
that when I come here, it takes up the full screen as well.
And if you go back to the page builder,
Yep,
which is our WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get.
yep.
If you drag that, like if you make the chat box smaller,
Here we go. Oh, the responsiveness is starting to pull it down automatically. There we go. Okay, that's just the grid.
okay, and
Yep.
then you aren't picking up white space on the right side.
On this
Right.
side, because I have forced it
Right.
to be
Yeah,
smaller.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah,
got that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact,
All
I'll go
right,
ahead and
got it.
we can go right here, and I have forced it to be smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
And
Nice.
that'll be one of those things I know as we play it, as our users play with it, and they voice, hey, their opinions and all like that, we will start to adjust our plan accordingly.
It does seem like that little bounce is back
I was
there.
about to say, I just noticed that too for the first time. It was like, no,
Yeah.
it hasn't bounced on me. And
That to me, I mean, as long as it ends up where you want it, like it bounces, but it actually makes the change. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, I mean, obviously it's a bug that we want to fix, but I don't think it's a showstopper.
yeah, I have to figure out what did I put in that. Okay, I'll take a look at what I changed without, because I think I did the responsiveness, which could be the only thing that probably interfered with that.
And
Um,
also, when we were talking about getting live with a beta, with a public beta,
yeah,
to me, like, with the main thing being like we want to show people and get people excited about our vision.
yeah,
Chat interface doesn't work, when they log
yeah,
in. That's one thing. But like if they go into something, they're like, wow, here's something I've not seen before in other systems. And yeah, there's a little bounce, but it still
yeah,
works. Like
yeah.
to me, obviously we want to be perfect, but that's not the end of the world because it is allowing you to make the change you're trying to make. It's just
Yes, yeah,
it's there.
yeah. when I was doing the responsiveness, I was sitting here the whole time, and I probably didn't even check for some reason, whatever, and what got changed there. But
Okay,
hey,
so that's fine. That's
yep.
not a showstopper from my perspective.
Okay. Let's see. What other little wins we have? We did the open router, we did the chat. We had a lot of cleanup last week of a bunch of small issues. That was during the middle of the week. We probably did about 3 or 4 different PRs. I did not keep a list because it was just kind of, I was just moving from one to the other to the other. It was like just knocking them out. Uh,
Yep. It
but
definitely is starting to feel a lot more professional.
yeah.
And like we talked about with our public beta, wanting to get people excited about the vision.
Hmm.
If they can get on there, they can have a chat interface. They can, chat with any local model. They can chat with open router
Yep.
models. They can use personas to tailor their responses. They can add additional pages to have different, that to me is like a pretty solid foundation.
Yeah. Yep. We like I said, we have a few little speed bumps in I won't call it the vision, which is in execution right now.
Yeah.
But that'll be no problem to clean up. But yeah, like you said, the vision as far as hey, you can have a conversation with this. It is starting to. We're looking at like we showed in our previous ones. We have web search, CAG. We have chat with documents, so we have other things already starting to line up. But the basic principle is, can you chat with an LLM? There you go.
Yep. And also show the plugin concept and the page builder and have it, if there's a bug here and
Yeah.
there, obviously we want to get those fixed, but there's nothing I've seen so far that like you can't see the vision, you
Yep.
know? All right. So I have from Navaneeth an interesting he basically said this was the first, this is like our fifth use case that we're
Yeah.
doing for Model Match, which is our model evaluator for specific use cases and making our top recommendations for different use cases. So we have article summarization, therapy, chatbots.
Email.
We have email writing. Maybe this is the fourth one. And then personal finance. This is the first one that he was like, there really is no good small model.
I noticed he had all 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For personal
Mhm.
finance. They and even the 70 billion parameter ones like score very low.
Yep.
So, I think this is one of those cases where there's a gap in the market. And, we talked about it, we use this as an opportunity to talk about, okay, well, what if we add a system prompt and what if we add a knowledge base that's
Yep.
specific to this use case, like Dave and I have been talking about with chat. And at first we were like, well, that's kind of cheating. And I agree with that if we go out and say, here's the best model, and we don't talk about the fact that we've had to add a system prompt and a custom knowledge base to it, that certainly would be cheating. But, I think when we think about the overall goal here of Model Match is to help you choose a model for your specific use case
Yep.
that does a good job. And so if we can start with like at a base level, here's the top models,
Yep.
and then we've tuned these with a custom system prompt. We're calling those personas right now, and a custom knowledge base, and we've been able to increase the score, like this. To me, that's highly valuable for
Well,
the end user.
especially because we're not coming from like a normal leaderboard where they just care about that raw score. And it's mathematically inclined of how they get there. What
Right.
we're looking at is a case study. You have something you wish to accomplish.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, a person looking at that only wants the best results humanly possible.
Right.
And so that if you can say, here's the model, it runs by itself, it can do X. But if you wanted to get, let's say X was 60%, but if you wanted to get to 85, all you need to do is have this persona running, these prompts, and you hit 85. That is pretty important knowledge. And to leave it off the table, I think would be almost a disservice.
I agree. I agree. So, we talked about that a little bit more and we'll follow up on that. And the method that we're taking right now is we're going to be shooting these again and again. Like we're going to have like a small set of use cases, not a
Yep,
million different use cases that we're doing, but because we're open sourcing the evaluation framework and everything, we're hoping other people will join in and create use cases and evaluations, etc. But in terms of the use cases that BrainDrive is going to do, we're going to constrain them to, probably a half a dozen or a dozen at the most, and then start giving overall scores for different things and different models as they release, etc. And so we're going to go back and reshoot all these videos anyway because things change so
yep,
quickly. So what we're putting out a video, we're doing a video, we're putting it out, we're then discussing for the next video on the next use case. What do we want to change, etc. We'll do that, and then we're going to go back through and reshoot all the videos. And we also want to get these models into BrainDrive as well to get
yep.
that. Yep.
Because I would like to, as we've talked before, create a plugin that allows people to test as well, so they don't have to worry about an entire application. They can just download a plugin.
100%. So that's where we're at with that. Beck was sick, so he missed our call on Friday. We rescheduled for today, so I'm hoping that he will have the ability for me to change the .env variables
Yep,
within the plugin. So that's the last step to like I don't have to go to VS Code or whatever to
yep.
change these things.
You would never have it if it's done in a plugin setting. You would just change there, and it would his plugin would take care of the rest.
Right. And I'm hoping, after this week, uh, you know, the chat with documents plugin will be good enough that like we're not going to include it right now as a
Yeah,
default plugin, but we can show like, hey, here's our concept for the public beta. Here's what we have, install it, and then here's what we have on the roadmap. And by the way, these are buggy, but like
yep.
you can use them and give us feedback, but just understand that they're not prime time yet, which I think will also give us a lot of credibility and get people bought into the vision.
This is built in public.
Great. So I sent you the new plugin README over the weekend, so we haven't had a chance to talk about that.
No, I took a cursory look over it over the weekend. I was just in the middle of doing router stuff, so I didn't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. All right. So we can take a look at that after the call. I feel like I actually went back through. We've had several hours of conversation on this at this point, and I went back through and listened to it all, and then I ran it through multiple AIs, and my first goal was like, can I understand this and concisely give the pitch? I think I'm there, and maybe that's what the README needs. I think it's there from a bone standpoint, but I'm just not quite sure if it's technical enough for a README. So I'll have you look at that and
Okay,
you can give feedback
and
on
especially
that.
considering who the audience is.
Yeah, I mean, why don't I just take you through it right now since
We're here.
we're here and
Yeah,
this is relevant to everybody. So this is my elevator pitch.
yeah,
BrainDrive's modular plugin-based architecture empowers you to easily add features, integrate services, and enable unique workflows in your BrainDrive AI system. And the difference here, although, it seems small and insignificant, is before we were referring to the plugin system as like, or at least in my mind, it felt like it was its own standalone thing.
no,
What I've realized through our conversations is it's the whole system, right? Like the whole system is the modular architecture that enables you to build plugins and plug them into the front end and the back end. And I'm sure that was obvious. Well, I know it was obvious to you since you built it.
yeah.
Oh, you still there,
Yep, I'm still here. You are frozen though.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Oh, there we go.
Okay, yep,
All right. So yeah, so obviously that was obvious to you since you built it, but it wasn't. I understood it, but not
yep.
at as deep of a level until we had the conversation.
Well, it's one of those things until you get your hands dirty in it and you start seeing how it starts to operate, and the more conversations, of course, the more you learn about it. You don't really kind of put one dot to the other dot, and then all of a sudden it's like we start talking about, hey, a headless system, and what is a headless system, and I think the best way to explain, as I did last week, was like think of the plugin system almost as a tree,
Yep.
and its roots go through the whole core.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and there are certain aspects of the root system, like into authentication, Eventually, a Sprout would pop up, which will enable us to take the entire authentication system out, make it a plugin, and that way you can put whatever you want into that spot, and that'll go through the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I also can see the vision now where BrainDrive can it can be the whole thing for your
Hmm.
AI system, or it can just be one small piece of it, or anywhere in between. And that's what the vision has been since the beginning.
Yep.
So understanding that and understanding that it's not something that we're going to have to move to and re-architect everything to make that happen.
We're going to
I
grow
guess I was
into.
sort of thinking before that like we don't have to re-architect everything for plugins to work within BrainDrive, but
Yep.
now I've realized not quite this second, but like it's architected in a way where we're not going to have to re-architect anything. We'll have to do some upgrades and that
Yep.
type of stuff, but the architecture is designed so this can be the system itself can be a building block,
Yep.
which is cool. And then that opens up the whole open source ecosystem to people that use BrainDrive. You're not locked into BrainDrive, and also you are able through the plugin system and through microservices and all of that to hook into whatever you want,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
cool. All right, so that's that piece. And then I think the WordPress, but for AI, is really working. And then we have our plugin developers quick start. And then this is what you can do with it. It's the building blocks. Here's the architecture, screenshots, one-click install, the WYSIWYG page editor. This is a stripped down version of the quick start guide for people that are just looking for it here. Our documentation, what you can build with it. These are the two distribution options, and then the roadmap. So I'm not sure if that's enough.
I probably have to read through it. I'll put notes to it,
Yeah,
and such that, like I said, when I read through it over the weekend, I was like, I wasn't in a mindset of where, okay, occupy 100% of my thought.
got it.
Um,
Okay, cool. So
but
that's
and it
that.
is pretty close. I mean, you're getting there. It's a very high level.
Yeah,
It not a lot of meat on any one of the pitches, but as far as if you had to read one document to kind of try to figure out what's going on. I mean, for a techie person, this would make sense. So, a lot
yeah,
of it right off the bat. The the what's the right word? The less tech you have, the more things you would probably have to look up as you read it.
right. And
Yeah.
I want to include, and maybe we should include more, but I do think, we talked about the plugin developer quick start already and went
Yep.
through that. So to me, like if you understand that this is like the WordPress but for AI, you know what I mean? Then you come here and like this is the details, right?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and to me, like maybe this could be in the README, but beyond like bringing this into the README,
Y-
because this is like it's kind of like if you or how I was thinking about it anyway, which again may be wrong, is if you want more than the high level, you can't sort of like dig into it. You have to look at this
Yeah.
basically, and you have to see the bridges, and you have to see the code and all of that.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I'm saying. I was saying from our standpoint, we need to add more because we already have tons back there.
right,
It's the reader is going to have to take that next step and go, okay, what is a plugin? Let me look at that document
right.
and read that one.
Yep. Yep. All right, cool. So that's that. You'll look at that and leave
Yep,
comments. And then I'll put up the repo for plugins. And then, I think in that repo, we already have what we want to have in there. So I can put that together.
yep,
Okay. All right, so a little bit more on Docusaurus, which we're in the process of creating a centralized documentation site so people can just go to one place and this is everything that they need to know. It starts with the plugin developer quick start guide, and is going to go over everything and it pulls in the documentations that we currently have in BrainDrive and in each of the repos and puts them in one place. That is
yep.
working, but updating that and the linking structure and all of that is complicated, not totally overcomable. But before when I was, and this is what I wanted to talk about with you before, I was going for the documents were going to exist in both places. They're going to be in the individual repo, all the documents,
Yep.
and in the docusource. After going back and forth on this, and I'm also learning Codex at this time, which is cool. Um, it seems like actually a better approach would be to have just the main, like the README documents and maybe an install
Hmm.
in the repo,
Yep.
and then everything else, including that, you do
Yep.
duplicate those README files in the DocuSource, but everything else is in the documents repo.
Yep. We kind of hinted at that when we were initially talking, where we would have almost three repos. We'd have the core, we'd have the we'll call them core plugins, which would
Yep.
be another repo, and then we'd have documents being
Yeah.
another way like that.
Yeah.
And while we were building in that middle stages, when we were okay, as I'm building this bridge, I'm putting all the documentation in here just so we would know where it's at and
Right.
stuff like that. And now we're reaching to that point of where we have so much documentation spread throughout, we will have to now get to, as it suggested, that finality piece of let's move all the documentation out of these repos and put them in a one BrainDrive doc.
Yep. Okay. So that makes sense then. I
Yep.
just wanted to make sure that that passed the smell test. Okay. So we'll do that. All right. And then on our launch, public beta launch to-do list, I went through this launch to-do list and I kind of moved the things in red that I thought, we should just do before we do significant pushing of
Hmm.
this.
Yep.
And so the updates with Matt implemented, um, this is done now. Like this
Yep.
is what you did, right?
Yep. That should all be done on Friday.
We just need to move that to the BrainDrive GitHub, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. And then I want to talk to you that we can talk about this after the call
Yep.
because I think maybe it's an install issue with me or something, but I'm still having not on the back end, but on the front end, I'm having the not that's the wrong terminology. Not in the page builder, I'm not having it, and but on the
Yeah.
render when I'm actually in the chat, I'm still having it, but that may be and then these are non showstoppers from my
Yeah.
perspective. When I'm using the thinking tags,
Yep.
it puts the chat in there with all the thinking stuff, and then it like refreshes and goes up into a
Yeah,
thinking
I noticed when he was doing that too. I seen that, but I hadn't did anything with thinking yet. So I
like a
was like,
trick.
yeah, it's like a magic trick.
Yeah.
Now you see me, now you don't.
Yeah, right. All right. So, and then this one, because it's quick, I'll just show you
Yep.
here. I installed I installed the Open Router plugin
Yep.
from using the local file.
Yep.
And here we say that I think this is really important. And I'm
Yep.
assuming this is the security. It's not here. And I'm assuming the same thing applies,
Oh,
right?
true, true. Okay,
So I
yes,
think
yes.
just that's a small thing, but I think like that's a big
Yep.
deal.
No, no, yep.
Okay, cool. But again, not a showstopper. We're making lots of progress on this. The GitHub security, I just want to, once you've done everything you want to do, I just want us to sit down together and go through it just to make sure
Yep.
we're kosher, but that's not I think we could probably do that in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I just
Uh,
have a few like I was already researching on what we need to accomplish to get there, where the security for GitHub is also in place.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but my sense is if like a developer comes in terms of getting them excited about our vision, our credibility, and we've got like a lot of like
Yep.
we have our GitHub buttoned up, like that's not a great look. So write and publish the plugin README. That's what we just talked about. You'll look at that. The doc site, this is me, and the future roadmap, I think we basically have here. But I just want to update the roadmap in the GitHub. And
Yep.
then that's that. And then a few things on the plugin, the Olama issue, which you know about. We're having an issue with it sticking a little bit. The Open Router plugin, which a lot of progress made on that. And then moving these plugins to the BrainDrive repo. That again, all these things I view as like almost housekeeping,
Yep.
There's a couple little minor things left, but I feel like we can get all this done like before the end of the week, probably.
Yeah, yeah, there's a bunch of just little things. Like I said, I want to see what I screwed up because when I did the responsiveness like that, visually I had it working, and then all of a sudden it's not wanting to work as
Yeah.
perfectly as like that. So it's like I must have screwed something up when I was doing the plug-in stuff and just moving faster and not but so it's like
I
that's the
feel like
key.
you know what to do now, though, so it's
Yeah,
not
well,
like,
yeah, because
yeah.
I only screwed it up since Thursday, so it's
Yeah,
not I haven't done
right.
that much coding.
Right. Yeah, because I was like, oh, this was working before.
Yeah,
So anyway, I was like, did I do something wrong or whatever?
nope,
But
nope. I'm gonna take all credit for that
no,
screw up.
it's when you're doing most of the work, a lot of the screw ups are going to be with you. So, all right. So, that's it. I mean, I really feel like these are.
Yeah, these are a bunch. We have a bunch of little small.
This is
I
like
don't
the
even want to
house
call them.
is built,
Yep.
and we got to get the sawdust up and like wipe down the mirrors and stuff. But like, it's there.
Yeah, because like I said, when I was testing, I had the chat plugin working the way I wanted to. I had Open Router working the way I wanted it to, and it was like I was having a conversation with a free model. It was like, and that was kind of, and I was giving somebody just what happens entrepreneur of how to access free models, and I even showed him a screenshot of BrainDrive because it lists the ones that were free, and I was like, these are possible,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So it's like I know they're working. I just got to figure out, okay, what did I screw up? Because
it's all
that's
good. All right. So yeah, I mean, I think we just stay heads down
yep.
and focus on these things, and I think that's the call for today, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about.
I am also starting to take a look at code cleanup and refactoring, and coming up with a good solid plan of how we could maximize the time because of course we have, minimal resources, how to accomplish a lot. Probably start on the back end with that, and get the back end cleaned up first because everything kind of starts from there. But yeah, mostly work on a plan so how that could be, because it's a boring time period, how we can leverage AI to help us clean that up, how to uh, maximize AI usage and clean that up, and testing then that we didn't screw something up in code cleanup because that's the risk right there when you do code cleanup is the fact of you're taking stuff out, you're fine tuning, but you can introduce a new bug without realizing it, and that's where it's like building a little test suite, which then our developers can even use for what they're doing. So
Yeah, and I was thinking about from a content marketing standpoint, there's obviously a lot of um, search traffic
mm,
and people looking for content and tutorials around how to use these tools to code.
yep,
And by using them to code BrainDrive, we're kind of we're riding the coattails of the popular coding, tools, but then getting by default, because you're using those coding tools to build BrainDrive, we're getting BrainDrive exposure.
yep,
And we're getting BrainDrive exposure with our exact target audience
yeah.
because they're coders,
Yeah,
right?
for right now, yeah, all developers and how you but that's the thing, that's the appeal. Just because you can code doesn't mean you want to code a monstrosity like this or
Right.
put the time, mental energy to how to develop a plugin system.
Yeah.
And so if you're a developer, and I can tell you right now for myself, I can use RuCode and I can come up with a plugin code wise. I mean, you've seen Friday, I cleaned up all the chat stuff. It's just a matter of how you go about doing it. And yeah, for content. I have no problem. I know everybody is like vibe coding and stuff like that, whether it's good, it's bad, how to do it, context engineering, how to leverage what the code is and pull it in,
And
excellent
I
source.
listen to this stuff constantly. And everything I listen to is way, or most things are just way more like, here's what context engineering is, and like, here's how to think about it. And they talk about, like, sometimes if they're good, they talk about, here's how I set it up, but they never go through, like, okay, like, this is my setup. Here's, what do you call your code guy?
Oh, I Hank and Jimmy.
Hank and Jimmy, right? I've got Hank and Jimmy. Let me talk about how I set up Hank and Jimmy to do
Mhm.
work for me, just like a team member.
Yep.
Here's how I did it,
And
and
then
here's
accomplish a task. That's the part that these people, it's like when they give an example, it's like they gloss over something or they create an example that nobody would ever do in real life.
right,
It's like, and those examples, it's like, I mean, they must, you see what they do, and it's like they do it one time, and here it is, it works. So you know they hammered out that prompt 50 times of failure.
correct,
But those 50 times of failure is what gets you to that one working. And that's important
right,
for people to see and experience. It's like you're going to be wrong. So how do you correct that?
yeah,
And that's the it's like they don't know, okay, go in and backtrack your code because
yep,
it as there's been articles of Replit when they completely deleted somebody's code base, an
yeah. I
AI.
saw
And,
that. Yep,
yeah, and they didn't know how to get it back because they didn't do backups. And
right,
it's like, so it's like, what do you do? Well, Replit had to go in and code safety measures because even they made a mistake.
right,
And that's why it's like I don't trust any single source with our code. I have it backed up myself. We have GitHub. I have an offsite backup of code each day. So it's like no matter what, if something happened, the house caught on fire, the worst that would happen, I mean, worse is 1 day.
right,
That's it.
right.
I just, it's like, so it's like you have to be cautious and just know what to look for. And that's where the content would come into play of, hey, we can go through this all day long because it's
And
fun.
it's the more that it's like it's stuff you're doing anyway, you know
Yep.
what I mean? So it's not like, yeah, it's definitely all and I don't think again, I don't think this needs to be like you spend all day preparing for a video. It's just like
Click it on.
let me get on and calls like this, like we can
Yeah.
do that or we can do
Yeah.
that in our because I'm interested in seeing this stuff too, and
Yeah.
I can ask questions. I just always have to keep in mind that like I'm not a developer, so I don't want to like bog down the developer audience, but like I think these are just videos that we can cut from just our normal conversations and not
But
have
you're
to.
almost a perfect audience for this because a lot of if you can code, a lot of this will click in. I mean, you just install it and you'll be okay. I know what that is, and I know what
Yeah.
this is. And,
Yeah.
and odds are, if you're a developer, you've been prompting.
Yeah.
It's like now and most people I find they're developers, they're using the web-based interfaces like OpenAI or Claude. They haven't taken it to using VS Code and the extensions. And that's where the magic to me is when you get everybody's system prompt out of the way that are used for general audience. Now I have a system prompt targeting developing, and so when I tell it, hey, I want to build a function that does X, Y, Z in this file, and then I go get a drink really quick. Because if you did everything right, you should come back to something that works.
So yeah, I mean, I think we should just do like we should walk through your VS Code setup. I'm
Yep,
curious, I'm looking to move into VS Code, so so that might be a good thing to do tomorrow. We could just record that or whenever
yep.
next time as we talk. Cool. Anything else you wanted to add before we wrap for today?
No, I'm pretty good. I have a lot of little stuff to nitpick, but I expected that this week.
Yep. No, I think next Monday, I think our goal should be we've done the public beta release because it's
Yep,
going to be small initially
yep.
anyway. I've got everything from Digital Brainbase switched over. We've made a few posts and like we have some initial feedback. That seems like very doable this week to
Yep,
me.
it does.
All righty. On that note, hope everybody has a great rest of the week.
Yep,
Like I said, our mission here at BrainDrive is to make it easy to build, control, and benefit from your own AI system. We're sharing our progress here every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time via the YouTube live stream. And we post the recording later in the day today in our community at community.braindrive.ai. And we'd love it if you join us on the journey. Take care, everybody.
have a good week.